Okay, we're now recording. Okay, so as I said, I'm Joel, the Executive Director. We've got Ariel here, the Director of Year-Course, Rabbi Adam, the Director of Education on Year-Course, and Maddie Salt, who's an FZY movement worker, who's been involved in the Year-Course recruitment process and helping to oversee Year-Course from the UK side of things. So this evening, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and talk through the Year-Course program, focusing a lot more on the first semester, the first few months of the program, especially that first month or so of the program. And so what I'm going to do first, I'm going to pass it over to Ariel, who is going to take things away. Ariel.
Thank you, Joel. So shalom, everyone. My name is Ariel Magal. I'm 47. I live in a kibbutz about an hour north of Tel Aviv. As you can hear, I'm an Israeli. I'm married to Shira. We have 3 kids. One of them is now in Tel Yehuda in America, north of New York, the Young Judea summer camp. I have been working with FZY since 2003. That was my first engagement with Young Judea, being a counselor on FZY summer tours. So I have a very warm corner in my heart for FZY as a movement, for working with teens from the UK. It's kind of a big, it's a big part of my growing up as a person, as a human being. And I've been the director of Year-Course in the last year and a half. Last year was my first full year. I was a shaliach. I did many things before that, but I came back to Young Judea and FZY 2 years ago, and I'm just beginning my second full year as the director. Really exciting to see everyone, excited to kind of begin the program in the end of August. The FZY seminar will begin a little bit before Year-Course opens, and I think Joel, you'll speak about that later in this conversation. But Year-Course officially starts on August 31st. That's when the participants arrive from North America, and then basically everyone moves into their accommodation in Tel Aviv. We have 2 buildings in Tel Aviv. The first one is called Bet Hillel in Bet Hillel Street, 5 minutes from our office, says right next to Hashalom train station. For everyone is familiar with Tel Aviv, so it's kind of the next to the highway, next to the train station, really close to all the buses. Hopefully the light train will open soon, and it will be also right next to the station. They've been talking about opening it for the first year and a half. So hopefully this summer it will open finally. So about 65 participants live in Bet Hillel, and the other 35, 40 live in a different building in the heart of Tel Aviv called Bet Leni. And our participants are divided between those 2 buildings in Tel Aviv. They share rooms between the FZY participants, North American participants, Israelis. We have 10 scouts, 10 Sofim, who are joining us for every year and share the same accommodation with FZY and Young Judea participants. We even have 1 Mexican participant this year. What do you know? So yeah, they all share the same accommodation in Tel Aviv. Rabbi Adam will go deeply into the Tel Aviv schedule, but I just want to give kind of an overview of the year before Rabbi Adam will dive deeper into the schedule of Tel Aviv and everything that goes on in Tel Aviv. So the year starts, as I said, in August 31st. Then we move into the first semester that ends on December 21st, which is when our winter break begins. We have 2 weeks of break until January 6th, and it will all be mentioned in the info guide that you will get probably next week. Once winter break ends, we begin that second part of the year called Zman Yachad, time together, breaking down the silos between different groups and different sections. The FZY participants all belong to the Yama section that begins in Tel Aviv. We also have another section called Kedma that begins in Jerusalem. Zman Yachad is time for our participants to mix and get to know each other. During Zman Yachad, the month of January, we have both local Israeli amazing programs like something was really big for the FZY participants last year. We hiked and camped out for 4 days in the Eilat Mountains in January. It was one of the highlights of the year for the groups from the UK. And we also have some global trips, traveling around the world, Morocco, Portugal, Dubai, Cambodia, and Rwanda. Basically the what we call Olami trips. And then after Zman Yachad ends in the end of January, we start the second semester. FZY participants will move with the rest of their peers from Yama section, to Jerusalem to live in Kiryat Moriah and study in Machon, take the courses of studying about Jerusalem, about Israel, about Zionism, Judaism, going to Poland for a week with Machon. And then the year ends right after Yom Ha'atzmaut on May 16th, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the structure. First semester in Tel Aviv. The middle is called Zman Yachad, that includes winter break with a lot of programming going on. And the last part is the second semester that begins in February and ends in the middle of May. That's kind of the overall structure. Before Rabbi Adam goes into the schedule of the Tel Aviv semester and explaining about the different components, just want to say one thing. The goals of the program are enhancing the connection with Israel, strengthening the connection with the participants' own Jewish identity, and self-growth or individual growth, mostly expressed with more becoming more responsible, more independent, and improving our social capabilities. That's basically, those are the goals of the program. That's what we're aiming for. There's a lot of room for self-exploration, for the participants in Tel Aviv are living in one of the most amazing cities in the world. A lot of time to explore the city. We're offering a lot of options of festivals and culture things that are going on. And there's a big component of responsibility, meaning year course in some sense is the first step in adulthood, meaning participants are expected to wake up in the morning, go to their internship placements, or join the tours that we're offering, and take care of their laundry and clean their rooms and get along with their peers. And of course, we have the staff around them to support everything, to give them everything they need to become a support circle. But in many ways, year course is the time to get to know ourselves, to get to know who we are, and to learn how to run our lives in this world, to start learning at least. So a lot depends on the choices and the decisions that participants make in their own kind of day-to-day lives. A lot depends on how they engage, how they come into the program, how they come into their internship placements that Rabbi Adam will talk about in a minute. A lot of it depends on their own individual choices. As one of the counselors said last year, and I completely agree with her, we are offering amazing opportunities, but the only ones that can make those opportunities and programs meaningful is the participants. I can't make something meaningful for another person. That other person needs to make things meaningful for themselves. So yeah, that's kind of my introduction. And now Rabbi Adam, take it away.
Thank you so much, Ariel. So just to introduce myself, I can potentially see some returning parents, I think, I definitely see some returning parents. It's lovely to see some of you again and to also see so many new faces. As I was introduced, my name is Rabbi Adam Drucker. And as you can hear, I grew up in the UK. I grew up I actually first lived in Manchester, then moved down to Hendon, then Mill Hill, and then Edgware, and then Stanmore, then back to Edgware, and now Israel. So quite a journey. I moved to Israel 7 years ago with my wife Shoshana. We have 5 children. Please God, we'll be celebrating our oldest son's bar mitzvah in September. So I'm actually going to miss the very first weekend of the program, but I'll be then with your children, with all of you for the rest of the year. Just that first period I'll be missing, hopefully for an important reason. I grew up in the UK. I worked in a number of different communities in the UK, very involved in Stanmore Synagogue. I taught in Yavne College for a number of years, for any of you who go to Yavne. I also taught in some comprehensive schools for a bit, and then moved to Israel and was fortunate enough to begin working for a Young Judean FZY year course, now coming up for my 7th year on the program as the Director of Education and the Rabbi. I'm going to just go over 2 different main components. The first will be a deeper dive into what the Tel Aviv section, the Tel Aviv semester looks like. I'm also then going to talk about some of the Jewish life aspects, which is also under my purview throughout the program, including what Tagim look like, what the festivals look like, Shabbatot, and then open up for, I think we'll open up also for questions as well, obviously. So we can help you in any way that we can. And Ariel also, that we'll mention later, there'll be some other seminars with all of the participants who are also coming from the US, that will send out the invites for that you can also join to get as much information as possible. So as Ariel mentioned, the program Young Judean FZY year course, when you arrive, you'll join up with around 80 or so North Americans your age and Israelis who you'll live together in Tel Aviv. But when you arrive, the first week, as mentioned, will be with FZY, and then you're going to begin the orientation with the rest of the program in Tel Aviv. That will include going over, living together in the building, the nuts and bolts of living in Tel Aviv, where the closest supermarket is, and how you can live and function together in a shared kitchen, and where the closest doctor's surgery is, etc., etc., etc. And then we will also take you out on different trips to explore and deepen your connection with the city of Tel Aviv, where you're going to be living, in a program that we called Masa Tel Aviv, the Tel Aviv journey, that goes through both the history, culture, and people of the city. And then after that first week is when you'll begin your internship or programming in Tel Aviv. As part of an email that's going to be sent out to you, there will be forms for you to begin to set up an interview with our team here in Israel, whether that's with the internship coordinator or the special programs coordinator, that will meet with every single one of you coming on the program to discuss what you would like to do during your time in Tel Aviv. The core program in Tel Aviv is, as Ariel mentioned, more individualized. And I'll talk about Jerusalem in a moment more broadly. As Jerusalem, its classes, seminars, and trips all that revolve around educational experiences. Tel Aviv, the main piece revolves around your either volunteer placement, internship placement. You know, there's options to volunteer with Magen David Adom, the ambulance service. There's the option to spend 2 months spending time training with the IDF in a basic training course called Marva. There's the option to live on kibbutz for 2 months. And that's going to be the core experience while you are based in Tel Aviv. And all of the different options will be sent out to you with the full explanation, as well as links to begin to identify what you would like to do, and then to be put in touch with a member of our team who will then reach out to further that discussion. So for example, you're interested in volunteering with Magen David Adom, you'll put that down as your particular preferred choice. And then you will meet with the member of our team who will talk to you exactly how it works and what you need to do in order to prepare. Same thing if you're put down, actually, I'd really love to have it to volunteer in Tel Aviv with a school or in a daycare, or intern with a startup or nonprofit in Tel Aviv in a particular area, the same process. And so after that first week of orientation, you'll then dive into and begin your particular experience, whether that's interning, volunteering, basic training with the IDF, Magen David Adom, whatever you decide. In addition to that central individualized piece of programming, There are also other components in Tel Aviv that bring the group together and also provide deeper learning experiences during that time you're living in the city. So on top of everything that Ariel said, that you'll be living in Tel Aviv, have the moments and times to explore the city, explore yourself, meet this wonderful group of people that you're going to be living with. We, when I say we, I'm talking about the FZY team. So we'll have individuals who will come once a week and sit and work and run activities for you specifically as the FZY group once a week. I also take out the entire group on what we call siurim, which are trips up and down the country in order to explore Israel, its culture, its history in an engaging, experiential way, rather than not just learning about Israel in the classroom, but actually going out and learning about the people and the country out off the beaten track in the country once a week. So you get to kind of break up your individual schedule by coming together as a group, as well as other madrachim-led activities, if that's in the evening, cultural experiences that Ariel mentioned before. So we have that balance between the independence piece, but also a structure that every individual feels that they are able to come together as a group and to create their routine for their time in Tel Aviv. At the beginning of the year, we're blessed in the Jewish community to have the Chagim, which can be, from experience, a fairly tricky time for people because it's still the beginning of the year. It's the first time that you have been spending, a real portion of time away from your families at a time where traditionally you may come together with your friends and family, if that's on Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, whatever it may be. And so over the Chagim in Israel, we provide different experiences for you to be able to come together with your friends. If you also would like to spend time, you have family in Israel and you want to go and spend those festivals with them, that's also an option. But to celebrate the festivals in Israel, so that you get that feeling of what it's like to have those special moments in the country, and with a combination of meals together with your floor, and we'll buy all of you, apple and honey and pomegranate and challah and everything that you need to have your meal together, and various different options for services that are in the area of Tel Aviv. We've offered in the past, and we're happy to offer again the option for anyone who would like to actually be in Jerusalem for any one of the Chagim, the opportunity to do so. And that will be something which we will arrange very, very close at the beginning of the year during the orientations. If that's something you really want to do and you're thinking about, then you'll have the opportunity to opt in, and we'll help you arrange that if you want to be in Jerusalem specifically. And over the Chagim, so for example, Yom Kippur, we have a meal before the fast with everyone together, and then there are options to go to Kol Nidre, to different services close to the buildings, and then a break fast. I think in the past we've got bagels and tuna and smoked salmon and things like that to break your fast. I'll make sure to bring some Yorkshire tea, whoever wants to have some of that. I'll be happy to share my stash after the fast in Yom Kippur. And the same thing also Sukkot. We have a sukkah in every building that we have. We'll be running different trips and activities so you can live the festivals in Israel like a native Israeli. And that kind of just also segues into the way that we mark and celebrate Shabbat on the program. Young Judea and FZY have a very, very close, not only a close partnership, but also ideologically, we're passionately, proudly pluralistic, Jewish and Zionist youth movements. And so we really want to make sure that we're offering experiences for every single individual coming on our program to enter into a space within which they're able to deepen their connection with their Jewish identity that is authentic and real for them. And that also works for Shabbat. You'll have madrachim on your campus that are living in the same building as you and are available for you on a rota 24/7. So if there's anything that you need, you can reach out to them and they'll help you. And also for cultural experiences and religious experiences. So on Shabbat, every week there'll be candle lighting, there'll be different options, either locally to go to different shuls if you want to experience Kabbalat Shabbat, if you want to experience Kabbalat Shabbat in the port in Tel Aviv or on the beach, or you want to go to a more traditional synagogue, or a synagogue that's similar to the one you go to back home, or a completely out there, totally different experience, those will be offered, as well as options for meals together with your floor and your friends, and Havdalah at the end of Shabbat. We'll also have during the year more solidly and intensely programmed Shabbatot. So we call Shabbat B'Yachad, Shabbat everyone together, which will be on the calendar that we send out at the beginning of the year. So that which is known as an in Shabbat, that everyone stays in. It's in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem, or we take the entire group away somewhere together. We have a fully programmed Shabbat on the Friday all the way through, with activities and meals and times similar to if you've been, to FZY camp, or you were on tour or anything like that, to experience kind of a really lovely Shabbat together with your group. In addition to that, and it's important, I wanted just to, this is Ariel mentioned some of the add-ons that you can sign up for on the programs, specifically during the Zman Yachad in January, whether it's the international trips. In addition, we run a program called Road Trip with the Rabbi, which again, if you know people who've done the program before, you've had siblings, you may have heard of the program, which is an additional around 6 weekends during the year, where together with a group of around 55, 60, go away together for additional weekends across the country. The core idea being we can experience and celebrate and enjoy and benefit and enjoy a Shabbat in various different geographical locations together as a group. It's usually me and my family. That's where the rabbi piece comes in. We have Shabbat on a kibbutz, and a Shabbat in an oasis in a desert, and a Shabbat on the beach, and a Shabbat in a city. All together, they're very. Again, I know it's difficult for me because it's my program and I'm not very good at. I'm English, so I'm not very good at complimenting myself. But it's a very popular part of the program that gets filled up very, very quickly. I do make sure to set aside a number of spaces for FZY because I have a bit of a bias. So if you are interested as well, the email that's going to go out, there'll also be a space for you to express interest if you would like to do Road Trip with the Rabbi. You can also talk, Maddie, I know Maddie's on the call, so Maddie can also talk to you about that as well if you're interested, or please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about it. And if that's something you think interests you and you want to explore Israel, you want to experience Shabbat in just a different and meaningful way, then it's a really, really wonderful option. And just to put out there that it does fill up very, very quickly. So when you get that email that comes through, please, if you just want to find out more, just to put down that you are interested. One final piece from me, and then I'm assuming unless anyone unless someone on the call wants to add in anything else or to go talk about a different section, just very briefly about Jerusalem. So after your incredible experience in Tel Aviv, you'll then have the month of you'll have winter break and January, through which you'll be in housing. We never ever throw, you don't get thrown out onto the street. You'll have somewhere to live, and a bed, a bathroom, and everything that you need. But you'll make then the transition from your time in Tel Aviv, Zman Yachad, to living in Jerusalem, in Kiryat Moriah. Kiryat Moriah is in the neighborhood. It's East Talpiot, Armon HaNatziv, where you'll be joining up on something called the Machon LeMadrochei Chutz La'aretz, or the Machon program for short, which is a training program for future leaders of the Jewish world. And it's a program that is designed specifically for youth movements. It's been running for many, many decades, 70 plus years, maybe probably even more. And it's a proud partnership that we've struck up, again, Young Judea and FZY, a few years ago. And as part of that program, you will continue to live with all of your group that you've been living with in Tel Aviv, FZY, everyone from Young Judea. And also on this campus in Jerusalem, you'll be joined by other youth movements from around the world, South America, Australia, South Africa, Europe, all over, and engaging in enjoyable, meaningful, educational experiences both in classroom, out in the field, seminars that revolve around Jewish, Zionist education, Israeli geopolitics, dozens and dozens of different classes for you to attend and to choose from. And as Ariel mentioned, included as a gift from the Jewish Agency, who helped fund the program, this particular program, a trip to Poland as part of the semester, which will be around the end of March, around the end of March. That in a nutshell is a Jerusalem program. There's a dining hall which serves meals every day, and you'll be living in dorms on that campus. So that's kind of the overall piece for me. Tel Aviv, beginning, seminar, what Tel Aviv looks like, core experience, spoke about Judaism a bit, and then that transition into Jerusalem. And I'm happy to take, Ariel and I are happy to take any questions. So I'll hand it back to Joel. You can lead us to the next part.
Going over something that has to do with the Tel Aviv semester. So in Jerusalem, participants are living in the campus of Kiryat Moriah and eating other meals in the dining room of Kiryat Moriah, where the food, 3 meals a day. The food is not amazing, it's not bad, it's something in the middle. In Tel Aviv, the apartments all have kitchens and cooking utensils, pots and pans and cutlery and everything you need in order to cook. And we are supplying the participants with a basket of groceries. There's basically basic cooking materials: pasta sauce, rice, tea, coffee, sugar, chocolate powder called shoko in Israel, canned corn, canned tuna. I'm just reading from the list. Cereals, mac and cheese, oil, of course, salt, eggs, bread, pita, some spreads like hummus and peanut butter and jam and honey. These are the things that we supply. What we don't supply is the things that are can be very easily bought in supermarkets, which is meat, mostly cheese, and fruit and vegetables. Those are the things that we don't supply. The people who live in Bet Hillel can walk 10 minutes and get to a very, very cheap kind of supermarket next to the building. People who live in Bet Leni can walk to the Shuk HaKarmel, to the Carmel market, and buy their fruit and vegetables there. Relatively to the rest of the world, fruit and vegetables in Israel are relatively, most of the year, relatively not very expensive. And that's basically what we give in terms of food. And absolutely, I'm saying it kind of upfront, during the Tel Aviv semester, most participants cook for themselves. So most people learn how to cook, even the basic things like pasta and rice, and prepare their own food. And most of the people are not using Wolt very often. So that's kind of an expectation to have once in Tel Aviv. We're, as Rabbi Adam said, in holidays, some Shabbat dinners, we're definitely buying food and buying meals. And whoever goes to the road trip with the rabbi is getting meals. Rest of the time, you're getting those groceries, and people are expected to cook their own food, which is actually something I think, just looking at last year, exciting and preferable for most of the Chanichim that were able to kind of come into Tel Aviv from Jerusalem and have the food that they want, have the food that they prefer, have the food that they choose, and not what they're giving in Kiryat Moriah.
So thank you, Ariel. So I'm just going to add on a couple of small pieces which are maybe more specific also to FZY. And then what we'll do is we'll open up to questions for everyone. So I think both Ariel and Rabbi Adam mentioned about like the FZY group will come out a few days before the North Americans come out from Young Judea. So there'll be, I think it's like they'll come out approximately, I think, 3 days earlier. And one of the main reasons for that is we recognize that on the program, the majority of the people are from North America. I think between the two sections that Ariel said, Yama and Kedma, which the Brits will all be on Yama together starting in Tel Aviv. There's, there's what, 180 or so North Americans, I believe, give or take, roughly on the program. And so there will be approximately, depending on and if any additional signups which may happen over the next couple of months, but there'll be approximately 15 or so people coming from the UK. So one, it's important that we keep them all together in the Tel Aviv to start in Tel Aviv together. But two, we also want to create a community of the FZY UK participants before the North Americans come in and swarm the campus. So that's one of the reasons why we bring them in a few days early, to build that community, to make sure that they find each other, and to do some like FZY specific pieces there. Next year, we will be having, in addition to Ariel, Rabbi Adam Drucker, and the whole year course staff who are there to support the program and build the program, FZY will also be having someone who originally from Britain, who has made Aliyah, was on the year course program just a few years ago, will be there also, coming into the program at least once a week to be able to support the British participants there and run some activities for the British participants, for FZY participants there, to make sure that in addition to the year course staff who are absolutely supporting them and looking out for them, but there's someone who's like very much specifically looking out for the Brits within the program and not just the program as a whole. We see that as something which is important, and we want to be able to offer and ensure that's happening. Furthermore, like Ariel, I think, mentioned that once a week, the idea will be that the FZY group will get together. It will probably be a late afternoon or an early evening, one day a week while they're in the Tel Aviv semester, to have that time, those few hours, just as that British FZY community away from the Americans, so they can hear British accents and only British accents, and not the American accent all the time. But also for us to like build that group as the people who will be coming back to Britain together and going to university together and hopefully continuing on an FZY journey together, for us to be able to provide some programming and build that community as well. And another part of the way that we do that is, Rabbi Drucker has mentioned, like different Shabbatot b'yachad, closed weekends. So FZY will have 2 or 3 closed weekends as well throughout the year. So as well as the weekends, which will be a closed weekend for all of the year course program together, and the program, the additional program that Rabbi Drucker said about road trip with the rabbi, there will also be 2 or 3 Shabbatot where will be just the FZY participants will be together, and FZY will take them away to a couple of different places around the country to spend Shabbatot together there as well. So they're like some of the extra pieces that we want to kind of like do in order to ensure that community there, to keep the FZY people as a tight-knit community and a strong social group within the program.
Just want to add one piece, Joel, about discipline policies. We'll go over them thoroughly during the orientation, but kind of putting it here on the table that participants are expected to attend the programming, meetings with counselors, lessons, excursions, tours, internship placements. The expectations is for people to attend the programming and arrive at the time that was set. Drugs are not allowed to be used by participants in any way, and we have many policies about how participants should be treating each other, and any violation of those policies will result in some disciplinary actions. So it's basically a part of our effort to keep participants safe and make sure that that everyone gets home in one piece. Discipline is a tool in keeping everyone safe, basically. Yeah,
fantastic. And I think that leads on to the last thing that I want to kind of like say before we open up to questions, which is a little bit like what happens next. So I think later this week, the next couple of days, an email will go out to you where you'll start thinking about those choices for that first semester. Is it volunteering you're interested in? Is it an internship? Ma'ava, Magen David Adom, Kibbutz. So these types of choices, they're like of making like what it is exactly you want to do during that first semester. That will go out at some point this week. Then hopefully next week, certainly within the next couple of weeks, you'll receive a full information guide, which is probably about a 40-50 page document, which will outline certain things like Ariel has just spoken about in terms of like our code of conduct and what is expected in terms of like behavior. Will outline you know, the specifics of like how the program works and who the staff are, and things like security and phones and all of these kind of like pieces which are important for you both as participants and parents to be aware of, and that parents can have that and keep that with them throughout the year as well, so they can always refer to, you know, how do things work. I mean, we are always here, both the year course staff and the FZY staff based in the UK. We're always here to answer questions, but it's hopefully it will be a good document and something to refer to throughout the year. And in that as well will also be like a breakdown of a calendar of like some of the dates that will be happening. Like the schedules can always change and things can shift around, but just you can get a much clearer idea of when the semesters start and finish, when there will be some different Shabbatot, and those types of things. So I think at this point, what we'll do is open up to questions. There's I think the best way to probably do this is that if you do have a question to ask, I'll ask if you maybe take yourself off of mute, and then we'll find the right person to answer those questions.
Just a quick one, Joel. You said the dates can still move around. Is the Christmas break date, you said before, I think the 21st of December to the 6th of January, given that we might travel, we might come, or they might travel, is that one fixed?
That's fixed. That's the winter break begins on December 21st and ends on the Motzei Shabbat, the end of Shabbat, January 6th. They have to, programming starts on January 7th, basically. So everyone needs to be back by January 6th.
Thank you.
The dates which could change slightly here and there, maybe things like Shabbatot or things like that. But in terms of like when semesters start and finish, when the Chofesh, the holiday periods are, those things will be fixed. Yeah.
I've got a question. Is there any structured teaching of Hebrew throughout the year?
Rabbi Adam, do you want to take that?
Yes, both throughout the entire year in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, we have Ulpan classes. We have an in-house Ulpan program that's been run by our head of Ulpan called Orit, and that goes throughout the entire year. It's 2 intensive sessions in Tel Aviv twice a week, and then essentially every day when they're in Jerusalem. I mean, apart from one day they have a break, but every day in Jerusalem.
And on top of that, they share living spaces with Israelis. They have many chances to speak Hebrew, and they work in Tel Aviv alongside with Israelis in the internship placements, ambulances, or in the companies, which is also a great opportunity to speak Hebrew. So whoever wants to speak Hebrew and learn, improve their Hebrew, that's IRCOS is a great opportunity.
Hi,
I have a question.
Go ahead, I'll ask.
Just a quick one. You mentioned that the program starts on the 31st of August. What dates do they fly out from the UK?
So the British participants, so that's the start date for the North Americans arrive and the official start of the year course program. The FZY group flight is on, I believe it's first thing in the morning on the 29th of August, which is like a couple of days earlier. So the FZY group will be there a couple of days in advance. I believe that you should have been sent the information of the group flight, I think. But if not, I will make sure that it will come out with you again. It will both be in the information guide, and I'll make sure it's when we send out the preference form in the next couple of days that we add that information to that email so you have that clearly.
Okay, thank you.
So my question is for Pesach. Do they have programming, or are they expected to arrange something for themselves?
So the
Pesach-
way that
Yeah,
oh,
sorry, sorry.
the way
Go
that
ahead.
the way they've run Pesach in the past is they'll have somewhere to stay over Pesach, and we ran successfully this year and in previous years a Seder night, which in partnership with our staff, primarily run by the participants, for those who want to run their own Seder, or if they want to be set up with a family, they can do. And then for the week of Pesach, they're on spring break and there isn't any formal programming.
Are they allowed to stay in the place at spring break, or do they need to find alternative accommodation?
You don't have to find any alternative accommodation for the entire year. For Pesach specifically, they're not able to stay on the Jerusalem campus because it closes for Pesach. So instead, we take the entire group to stay in Tel Aviv. Traditionally, we take them to the Abraham Hostel, where they have a home for the week of Pesach.
And the same question for the break over the Christmas break, or
Yeah,
winter
exactly the
break?
same. Yeah, exactly. So winter break, they'll have continue their housing that they have in Tel Aviv, and then there'll be a change over at some point where they'll then move depending on what's going on in January. But from the 31st, actually from when they arrive with FZY until the end of the program, they'll always have a bed and a room to stay in.
What happens if they've got a family in Israel and there's like a bar mitzvah that they should be at? When do we tell you about that?
Yeah, so it's the truth. The sooner the better. The person who will be in communication with for the Tel Aviv semester will be our Tel Aviv coordinator. Her name is Tal. She will be in touch with all of you over the summer and introduce herself. And anything like that, there's a bar mitzvah coming up. My child needs to be in such and such a place. You'll coordinate with her. We do if the bar mitzvah is going to be, it's abroad and they need to fly home. That's something as well that will involve FZY in, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page. We know, how long they're going to be away for. We do advise they're not away for too long away from the program, just for multiple reasons, both in terms of getting the most out of the program and socially and everything else. But if there's a bar mitzvah in Israel over the weekend or anything like that, you just need to be in contact with the city coordinator, whether that's Tel Aviv, and there's a different one for when they're in Jerusalem.
Thank you.
Can I ask, you mentioned that there's 2 sites for Tel Aviv. Do the FZY UK group stay together, or are they split across the 2 sites?
They will stay together in the same site, but they will be divided between different rooms. So the FZY participants will share rooms with Israelis and with Americans.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I can see a question just come into the chat about confirming when the orientation actually begins. I think, let me just quote that up. Yeah, so the program, the FZY orientation will start on the morning of the 29th of August when they fly to Israel. There'll be a 2-3 day orientation with just the FZY participants together. Then the Americans will arrive and the FZY will join in and start and join the orientation program with the full year course program. So 29th of August will be 2-day FZY orientation straight into the full year course orientation, which starts on the 31st.
No one asked us about visas, surprisingly. So participants are coming into Israel with a tourist visa, and we apply on their behalf through the Masa website. We apply to the Israeli MOI, Ministry of Interior, and request a student visa. Usually it takes a few months to get the student visa, and we're kind of getting them bit by bit throughout the year. So basically, this is part of our responsibility to apply and to get the student visas.
Can I ask a question? Do we have to organise any further travel insurance or anything like that?
So
That part of the whole package, the travel insurance.
So health insurance is part of the package. Travel insurance isn't. So we provide like a basic health insurance piece there. And when you get the information guide through in a week or so from now, there'll be the information of what is provided within that. Like travel insurance itself isn't. So that's something that we would advise families to take out.
Okay.
Sorry, going back to the visa question, actually, you said that you guys arrange it, but we received a link from FZY earlier. So do we complete those forms or not complete those forms?
So my understanding is that there was some misunderstanding here, that originally there was what was told by the Ministry of Interior is to complete this online application. And we've only found out in the last 24 hours that actually you can only complete that online application once the program has begun and participants are in Israel. We've literally actually found that out just today. And I think that's why some people who had already started that process were potentially struggling with that process, and why it wasn't letting everything go through. The Ministry of Interior have now updated the information to us. We will share that via email as well, and within the information guide will be the full updated information. Just assuming that the Ministry of Interior don't change things again, which is could happen.
Thanks.
So the answer about Israeli passports is yes, it does change the status. Israelis are not entitled to get a student visa, which basically means they get in with their Israeli passport and they stay in Israel. And if there's a need in taking care of like extending, if they get in with the British passport and they get in with the tourist visa, if there's a need to extend the tourist visa, then we are taking care of it. But Israelis are not entitled to get a student visa in Israel.
So I see a couple of questions coming. One about spending money and how that should work. One about SIM cards. So let me ask the SIM card first. So in terms of SIM cards, there'll be more information about this within the information guide. All participants need to have like a data package, so where they can access, where they can access messages and receive calls, etc., both in Wi-Fi and outside of Wi-Fi. And also there are two ways of really doing that, two major ways of doing that, which participants have done in the past. Like we don't specifically provide phones or SIM cards for participants. The two ways of late that most participants have been dealing with it are sometimes there are phone providers from the UK have packages themselves. There people are going abroad for a certain length of time that they have certain packages there. Which work well, and other people would prefer for them to get a SIM, an Israeli SIM card and work around that way. The company that I would recommend, like there's many companies. There's one which is based in the airport called 019, which does a lot of like packages for tourists who are here on both short-term and long-term programs. That's probably preferable than signing up to a company like Golan or Cellcom, which are like which provide most Israelis with their phone companies, because normally they have longer term contracts, but they can also be explored, and I do know that some participants have used them as well in the past. So in terms of, there will be like more specific information within the information guide as to what we require. Like phones are important for FZY and Young Judah in terms of the ECOS program, in terms of also safety and security. It's a way for the staff to be in contact with the participants. It's a way that we can track the participants if there's a need for us to do so. So it is important they have a phone, and it's one which has data package so that we can contact them at all times. In terms of spending money and the best way to do that, so I think different families like choose different things. There are lots of like companies now, companies like Revolut, or other companies like that, which allows you to kind of like where participants will have an account or a card where money can be put in one currency and taken off another currency with at good exchange rates. Other families would just will work just from participants' their own bank account, and parents will kind of drip feed money into that account where they will either withdraw money from the wall or more likely spend just via their debit cards or credit card in Israel. There's no specific one way of doing it, but different people, different families prefer different things. I think more and more people are moving more along the lines of these companies like Revolut or like Caxton, where if you were to lose the cards, then you don't necessarily lose all the money, which was on that card, if there's more insurance around that, and also that some of the exchange rates are often better there than running through a UK bank and withdrawing money or spending money on that card in Israel. Rachel, I see there was a question from you.
It's not a question, but Ariella did the same program 3 years ago. If you have Israeli family or friends, you can ask them to add a SIM card to their account. And then pay them back. It's quite a cheap way of getting an extra phone contract for the year. And you can normally get really good data packages as well.
Fantastic, thank you. Are there any other questions at this point?
Hi, just a little question, please. If you want to visit your child once in the program at some point, are you able to come at any particular point, or does it have to be certain times?
So it's most preferable to come during the time off, during Passover, during winter break.
And when you say the winter break, December the 21st to January the 6th, are they free to leave Israel and go on a holiday somewhere to meet their family?
Yes,
so they're
they
completely
are
free then.
completely free. There's no programming. We are giving them accommodation in Tel Aviv, but there's no programming going on. They can do whatever they want. At any other time during the semesters, during the Zman Yachad, there's programming. It's basically if it's 2 days here and there, it's okay. But more than that would be a problem just to miss programming and miss volunteering, miss internships.
Sure.
We're working very hard to sustain our relationship with internship placements. It's not easy to convince them to take, 18, 19 years old people from the UK and US. And every day they miss is kind of, giving them another excuse for not hiring people in the future. So basically, we would like for everyone to be a part of the programming. Also in Jerusalem, there's a different system of kind of keeping attendance. Basically, whenever they miss programming in Jerusalem in Machon, they're losing points. And once they lose a certain amount of points, they might be dismissed from the program. So that's another reason kind of not to take them out of the Jerusalem programming. Basically, the best times to come and visit are during the holidays, during the vacations, whether it's Passover, spring break, or winter break, or during Shabbat when there's no programming.
Yes.
Those are the best times to come and visit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question. Hi, everybody. In the event that they are not well, and I don't mean about health insurance, but they want to maybe visit or need to visit a local doctor, how does that work in Israel?
So the health insurance is covering getting treatment by a health clinic. In Israel is also, there are chains there are 4 big major chains that have clinics in every city, in Tel Aviv, in every neighborhood. And our participants are covered by the Maccabi Health Clinic chain, which is kind of it's a network of health clinics. And God forbid, if a participant is not feeling well, they tell their counselor. Their counselor is helping them to set an appointment with a doctor. Usually it's for the same day. It's just, they kind of schedule it for a few hours later, and then they can go see a doctor. And if there's an emergency, they can go to the emergency room, to a hospital, and if it's an emergency, there's a whole system. I don't want to be too boring, about the details, but they are being hospitalized, and the cost of the hospitalization is being covered by the health insurance. So that's basically how it works. For minor things, they can go to the neighborhood health clinic. For major things, God forbid, they go to the hospital and are being treated at the hospital.
It sounds better than the UK.
Israeli health system was established by people who believed in socialism, and they built a very equal health system that gives the lower level of health treatment is relatively high.
Thanks, Ariel. So a couple of questions I've just seen. It was about like which maybe we'll kind of like start closing up some of the questions shortly. It was about the international trips. So the Poland program is included within the price of the program, and that is a compulsory part of the Mahon schedule. To go there, it's normally about a 7-day trip. 7-8-day trip in Poland in around March, April time. So that's included within the price of the program, and that's compulsory. Ariel, I think, listed several other international trips, which most I think occur in January during the Zman Yachad month, to Rwanda, Cambodia, Dubai, Portugal, Morocco. I think they were the ones they potentially mentioned. Those have a cost to them.
Yeah. Sorry for not mentioning this. Sorry.
Yeah, so those ones do have a cost to them. So participants can either choose to, most of the participants, the majority of the participants stay within Israel, and they're doing different options that we provide, which are absolutely included in the price of the program, like the hiking in the Elat Mountains, which Ariel mentioned. Other things which have happened as well and are likely to happen again next year is like Sarel, which is like volunteering in the army for a week of seminars, different seminars, exploring different communities in Israel and other topics. So if participants, that's what the Zman Yachad period is, and participants, if they would like to and are able to join one of the international trips during that period of time, that does cost extra money. What I would say is we won't really talk in any major detail about any of those programs on this call, but if anyone feels that it is that's something that potentially interests them, they feel, and so then please do be in contact with either with Maddie or the FZY office or any of the Equal staff, and we'll be happy to share more information about that.
Can I just clarify one thing? Sorry, Ariel, to interrupt you. You said earlier about the visas. We got an email through from Ruth last week to say we had to upload birth certificate, passports, and a form about Massa. Is that you saying that we don't need to do that now?
So you can upload it to the website, but we can only apply to a student visa once they are here through the Massa website. You can apply to your local council, Israeli consulate.
No, I won't. Okay, okay. So I'll upload those two.
Try. Usually, Israeli consulate. I'm sorry to say that's something we're not very good at. Keeping our consulates working and welcoming. That's something that Israel is not very good at. But basically how it works is we are operating under the umbrella of Massa. Massa is a governmental company that was established by the Israeli government to support and sustain and sponsor long-term programs. Massa, being a governmental company, has ways to communicate with the MOI directly in order to support any need that we have in terms of visa. So everything that we need is, every kind of special request that we have, a special situation, we can always turn to Massa, to the governmental company that is supporting us and sponsoring us, and get their help with solving problems and issues.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, so I think what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap up this call. So as I said, that at some point in the next couple of days, you'll receive an email through where we're making choices for that first semester. that process will start. And then once we've the year course program have received those choices, then we'll be connecting the participants up with a member of staff there to kind of like delve into those and discuss those a little bit more, so we can ensure that we actually find the right placement for every single person. At some point in the next 1 to 2 weeks, there'll be this information guide which will be coming through with a lot more information about all the different elements of the program, be that the phones or security or the code of conduct or how the semesters work, the staffing. There'll be a huge amount of information there. The FZY office, the year course staff are here for you for any questions, both before the program begins and during the program. And I will make sure that when we send out their email in the next 24 hours or so with the preferences, that we will also put the relevant contact details for the relevant staff, both in the UK and in Israel, so you can contact them directly. So I just to answer that last question, which has just come in the chat, there will be several times throughout the year when the groups will get together, both the Yama and Kedma, through Shabbatot, sometimes during Zman Yachad, like during the orientation, maybe at some point, that there would be different points throughout the year where they will be getting together. And it's not specifically like a first come first served basis when it comes to internships or placements. That we want to, like, there will be a cutoff at a point. We want to start this process and connect everyone up and find the right placement for everyone as soon as possible. Obviously, if someone's not going to complete their preference form for a month, 2 months time, then some of the placements may potentially already have gone. But the idea will be that the volunteer internship coordinators will interview several people, and once they've done a bulk of interviewing the majority of people, then they'll start trying to connect the people up with the right placements. So as long as these forms are coming in shortly after we send it out, and we can start those meetings, then it's not specifically first come first serve. It's done in the best placement for the right people.
But the sooner you will start the process of placing, the better the process will be, and the better chances that you'll get exactly what you want. The sooner you'll start, the better chances that you get, your needs will be answered.
Okay, so I'm going to finish just by saying thank you to Ariel, to Rabbi Drucker, for Maddie for being on the call. Thank you to all of you for both being here and also trusting FZY and the year course program next year. And we look forward to getting to know the participants, getting to know you better over the coming 12 months, and we will be in touch. So thank you very much.
Thank you.